What if I told you there's a simple way to manage pretty much any thought or emotion that comes your way? We're about to walk through a really powerful framework called the guest analogy. And honestly, it might completely change the way you think about, well, your own mind.
Okay, so to really get this, I want you to picture something. Imagine it's late, maybe 10 p.m., you're at home, finally winding down after a long day. The house is quiet, you're settled in, totally at peace in your own space.
And then, out of nowhere, bam, a knock on the door. It's loud, it's unexpected, and it just shatters that calm. You have no idea who it could be or what they might want. It could be anyone, bringing anything from a friendly chat to total chaos.
So, in that split second, here's the big question. Do you have a choice? The answer is a huge yes, but it's probably simpler than you think. It really boils down to just one decision. You either open the door or you keep it shut. That's it. And everything that happens next hinges on that single action.
That moment, right there at the knock, that is where all of your power is concentrated. It is the one and only point of real control you have in this whole scenario. So let's break down what's really going on here.
All right, so to really unpack this analogy, we've got to start with the house itself. This is the foundation for the entire idea, so let's be clear on what it represents.
The house? Well, that's your mind. It's your private, internal world. It's your sanctuary, right? It's where you think, where you rest, where you recharge. And just like a real house, it is filled with incredibly valuable resources.
And this is where it gets really interesting. Think about it. The kitchen in your house represents your physical energy. The bedroom, that's your ability to rest and recover. The study is your focus, your precious attention. The food in the pantry is your time, and the water is your emotional energy. All of this valuable stuff is inside. Now ask yourself, would you just let any random person off the street come in and help themselves?
So, if the house is your mind, then who in the world are these guests? They're your thoughts, your emotions, and your desires. And they show up constantly, knocking on your door all day, every day. But here's the absolute key to this entire idea. They cannot force their way in. They always need your permission to enter.
And these guests can be anything, right? It could be a sudden wave of anger. It could be that sleepy, nagging voice of laziness. It could be a flicker of fear or a pang of jealousy. And hey, it's not all bad. It could also be excitement or a sudden rush of motivation. They all show up at your door and they are all waiting for one thing, for you to let them in.
So this brings us to that critical crossroads. Standing there at the door, you're faced with two and only two choices. You can approve the guest and let them in, or you can reject them and keep the door firmly closed. The consequences of this one decision are absolutely enormous.
And just look at the two different realities that spring from that single choice. On one side, you say nope to that knock of anger. Your house stays calm, your energy is yours, your clarity is yours. But on the other side, you open the door. And that anger doesn't just visit, it takes over. It starts using your energy, messing with your head, and creating total chaos. One decision, two completely different worlds. Now here's the really crucial power shift. The second you give consent and let that emotion in, it stops acting like a guest. It takes over. It waltzes into your kitchen and drains your energy, it sits in your study and hijacks your focus. For all intents and purposes, it becomes the new owner of the house.
And here's the tough reality of it all. It's almost impossible to wrestle control back once an emotion has already made itself at home. You can't reason with an angry guest who's already screaming in your living room. Your only real power, your only point of control, was way back at the very beginning, right there at the door, before you ever gave that initial consent.
So if that's the case, how do we get better at managing this? How do we protect the door? This is where we have to learn how to master our inner gatekeeper. This gatekeeper is a skill, and we can call it resolve. Now, this isn't just about willpower or gritting your teeth. It's a conscious decision that's tied to your long-term purpose. It's that wise part of you that stands at the door and simply asks, hey, does letting you in actually help me become the person I want to be?
And you know what? There's some simple brain science that actually backs this up. When a guest knocks, your reactive brain, your limbic system, just wants to impulsively swing the door open. But if you can just create a tiny pause, even for a second, you give your rational brain, the prefrontal cortex, time to step in and make a smart choice. That pause, that is your superpower.
Okay, I have to make a really important distinction here. This is not suppression. Suppression is when you let the angry guest in and then try to shove him into a closet and pretend he's not there. We all know how that ends, right? The pressure just builds and builds until it explodes. Resolve is completely different. It's standing at the threshold, looking the guest in the eye from a safe distance, and intelligently deciding not to let it into your home in the first place.
So let's bring this down to earth and see how this actually works in practice. Because understanding the analogy is one thing, but applying it is where the real magic happens. This is how you actually take control of the door. Just think about your daily life. That thought, just skip studying today. That's a knock. Instead of letting it in, your resolve says, you know what? I'll do 30 minutes, then I'll decide. The alarm goes off. The 5 more minutes guest is at the door. Your resolve says, nope. We're counting down from 5 to 1, and we're up. This is how you practice being the gatekeeper in all those small, everyday moments.
And when you start doing this, it leads to this really profound shift in your perspective. You realize you're not actually responsible for every random thought that knocks on your door. That's just your mind doing its thing. But you are entirely responsible for which of those thoughts you invite inside, offer a seat to, and allow to stay.
So, the next time an unwanted guest knocks on your mental door, what will you do? Remember this analogy. Just pause, observe it, and then make a conscious choice. Because you are not a victim of your emotions. You are the owner of the house. The door has always been, and it will always be, in your hands.